The girl that was in your room the night that I came to you about Blake." She stared at her hot chocolate for a moment, the sound of the barista steaming milk the only sound in the room. "Declan, you know you don't have to treat me differently. Just because you're helping me doesn't mean you have to change who you are. You have needs, and those needs..." She swallowed. Hey, y'all. Cayce Poponea again. How's everybody doing? I missed you guys. I have had to take a little time off as I was writing a book. Is not the proper term, still writing a book, but I knew that I needed to get some videos out to you guys because, you know, share what's going on in my world, so to speak. So for those of you who have no clue who I am and stumbled upon this video, first of all, welcome. My name is Cayce Poponea. I am a USA Today best-selling author. I prefer to write romantic suspense. I do dabble a very little into paranormal. I'm trying to expand that a bit. And so if you would do me the kindest favor and hit the subscribe and like button, it really costs you $0, but it means the world to me and to this channel. So we are continuing our journey on the books in my Code of Silence series, and we already touched on the first book where I introduced you to Patrick and Christy Malloy. In that book, in Shamrocks and Secrets, I also talked a little bit about at the end about it was coming time for Declan, their firstborn, to get married, and the pilgrimage, so to speak, that he would need to take. And so in creating the fourth book in the series, which is Declan's book, Secret Sins, I originally was not going to do this book. I'm going to be very honest with you. This book was not on my radar. However, I have been the type of author who listens to my characters, and Declan was very insistent that he had a story to tell. And so I did what every good author would do and listen and give him his words, so to speak. If you're new to me and you don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about Shamrocks and Secrets, I will link the video where you can go and enjoy that. And also the second book in the series, which is Claudia and Chaos, which talks just a little bit about Declan, not a whole lot. It's more of a, we're more talking about Christy and Patrick's relationship in that one, and some issues that they had. Anyway, moving on. We're moving on. So let's get started with Secret Sins. So in creating Secret Sins, I already had the main character. I had Declan from another book, so I didn't have to worry about him. Now, Declan is very much living in his father's shadow. And you have to remember, Patrick Malloy is this fierce, intense mafia leader. And to say that he struggled to release the reins in this book is an understatement. When I created Katie, what you have to remember is that Katie is in the family, but she's not, okay? Her father works for the Malloy family, but Katie has no claim to fame, so to speak. But in an act of desperation, Katie comes to Declan asking for help. That I didn't touch on very much in Shamrocks and Secrets was Katie, and poor Katie. Again, with the understanding that I never meant to write this book, I struggled with Katie because in Shamrocks and Secrets at the end, she was very whiny and cryy, and is that a word? Cryy? Sorry, is that even a word? It's going to be today. So I had to give her a reason why this was going on, why things were as they were. And so I gave her the reason for them getting married. Now, I'm not going to give any spoilers away. You guys can figure out that Katie was expecting. What I'm not going to give away is Declan's role in it, because it's going to surprise you what his role in her pregnancy was. Yeah. So I just want to touch on something just real quick about another character, Connor, who is Declan's younger brother. Now, Declan has some privileged information, so to speak. So when he finds out that Declan has decided to take Katie's hand in marriage, he knows his brother. And he knows that his brother is the poster child for most mafia bosses, in that they never stick to one girl for very long. Now, if you remember, there was a condition of marriage among another code of silence, so to speak, within the men of the Malloy family. Well, Declan isn't privileged to this information, but he's already laid down the gauntlet with Katie and said, it's a done deal, y'all. I am taking her as my wife. Now, in his mind, and in her understanding, that this is going to be a marriage of convenience, so to speak, because, again, she's expecting, and his role isn't exactly traditional in this particular pregnancy. However, Connor takes his brother to the side and is like, dude, you can't do this. You've got to get out of this, because there's stuff you don't know that you need to know. And so I made Connor where he had no desire to become a mafia boss. That was just not going to be his thing. He was not. Matter of fact, at the end of Claudia and Chaos, Shamrocks and Secrets, I make it where he becomes a physician. And I will be very honest with you and tell you that he is talking to me, right? He's got some issues. And so I don't know how it's going to plan out. I don't know if it's going to happen, but Connor is talking a little bit. And there was a squirrel moment. Sorry, back to it. So Connor has to go to his brother and say, dude, there's something you need to know before you take off to Ireland. And so my favorite character, and you have to excuse, I had a visitor. There's my baby, Mr. Angus. Yes, Angus was named after this little guy right here. He's my ultimate protector, but he demanded my attention, and anyone who knows me knows that I will do whatever for my fur babies. But anyway, favorite character. I'm sure that everyone thinks, oh, it's got to be Declan, because clearly she wrote a book for him. And you'd be wrong. And some of you may guess Katie, and you'd be wrong too. My favorite character in this book was Finley. Finley is an active person, or an active role in this book, where she's just no nonsense, and she's tough, and she's not really in your face, but she holds her own. But the more you get to know Finley, the more you understand why she is such a tough girl. So yes, Miss Finley is definitely my favorite character in this particular book. So is there a plot twist in Secret Sins? Well, is the Pope a religious man? Of course there is. This is me we're talking about. I love gasp moments. And I really love when those gasp moments are created because something will pop in my head and I'm like, oh, those are the best. I enjoy them. And anytime that I get to twist a plot, and if I get to twist a plot multiple times, oh my God, that's just like handing me $1 billion. It just makes me so happy. Absolutely. So yes, definitely a twist. I was asked some time ago how long it takes me to write a book. And it's a very difficult question to answer, because there are some books that write themselves and you literally sit down and you can't type fast enough. And there are other books that you have to walk away from and takes you forever. And sometimes you will totally put that book on the back burner while you focus on something else just so that you can finish the original book. With Declan, the idea for Declan came. Declan talked to me, which is a very important part of this process. But to actually write Declan took a long time. And it was one of those where I had to stop, write something else, come back, finish him up, write something else. I believe I stopped and started Declan at least 4 times. So yeah, some are easy, some not so much. Okay, so for my favorite part of doing these little videos is when I get to read from the book. Again, I find no better way than to listen to the author, read the words. It just gives it a little something. I don't know. I was recently at a book signing where there was an event for the authors to read from their books, and I just found it so amazing to hear their words, and so you get to hear mine. So let me set the stage for you. Declan and Katie have come to an agreement about what's going to go on between them, and they're keeping it to themselves. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some inquisitive eyes, so to speak, that are checking them out, very watchful. This is a Mafia family, after all. But this is, it was, for me, this was kind of a little turning point for them. What was once a friendship and him using her to help himself, it's turned into a little something else. So I'm sorry about the girl. Mystique, she finished for me. Not the name she gave me. Looking at her bewildered, Katie lowers her face to the mug, closing her eyes as she takes in a healthy sip of the hot liquid. Misty, right? Yeah? It's a stripper name. Everyone knows when Daddy cut her off, her hand found the pole. She was the girl that was in your room the night that I came to you about Blake. She stared at her hot chocolate for a moment, the sound of the barista steaming milk the only sound in the room. Declan, you know you don't have to treat me differently. Just because you're helping me doesn't mean you have to change who you are. You have needs, and those needs... She swallows hard, looking out the window at the people braving the elements. They're needs you won't want to get from me. There's a sadness in her eyes, and it's because of me and my lack of moral compass it's there in the first place. If I try real hard, I would be hard-pressed to count more than a handful of times where my parents were angry at each other. They were living by example, showing us how 2 people in love would treat one another. This child growing inside of her will look to us for direction on how to love and how to be loved. I can't fail this baby twice. How about we make a deal? We don't decide on those things just yet, and you let me take you to dinner tonight. Somewhere I know you'll enjoy. And if you're a good girl and eat all your vegetables, you'll get a surprise at the end. What do you say, Katie? Will you go out on a date with me? I just love Declan. Again, he started with the intention of being the tough guy that's expected of him. But in the end, he becomes this amazing man, doing what he needed to do, and ultimately falling in love with the girl who was willing to give whatever he gave her.